Luke Cage is wearing a tiara, guys. That I don't know how else to describe what I'm thinking about right now, but we're going to talk about Luke Cage episodes 3 and 4 on the Luke Cage After Show. Who's going to take the weight and step into the arena?
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV.
Step into our arena.
And now, let the buzz begin.
Hey guys, welcome back to AFTERBUZZ TV. The Luke Cage After Show is now. We're talking about episodes 3 and 4. I'm your host, Zach Wilson.
Yes.
Who's going to take the weight and step into the arena, step into our arena. Because it's time.
Ready to throw down.
Tauri Miller's here.
Hey guys, I'm Tauri J. Miller. You can find me on Twitter at Tauri J, TauriJay.
Joelle Monique.
Hey, it's Joelle Monique. Check me out everywhere, all over the internet, at Joelle Monique.
Jesse Klein.
Hey everyone, you can find me at Jesse Klein 1. That's JessKlein, the number 1.
And we got Alexis Torres on the 1s and 2s for now.
Yes,
Also
I
the
am.
voice of the chat.
What up? Talk about this shit.
I opened up the chat for a second, not to take Alexis' job at all, but somebody's like, Tauri Cage! Because those of you who are listening, I highly advise you go to YouTube to check out not only Tauri's outfit in this show, where he's just in perfectly bright yellow,
Yes.
and also the last show where he looked like Cottonmouth.
It's perfect, vest and all.
But let's dive right into these episodes, guys. We're gonna start with episode 3 because these two episodes were so distinctly separated. So we're gonna separate it a little bit more than on the last show. Luke totally just hit Cottonmouth
Yeah.
hard.
Right where it hurts,
Oh, yeah.
in the money.
Can we start just talk about that chess speech
Oh, so
that
good.
he had with Bobby Fischer? Oh my God.
Perfection.
I can't take out the king, so I'm gonna take out his queen
About to check
and
these
his
fools.
knights and his rooks.
Sent chills down my spine.
It was so good. Oh man, loved it.
It sets the perfect tone for this episode.
Yeah, and like it also at the same time, like in the background, it's Pop's barbershop, and there's like blood on the ground still.
On his
There's
hat?
bullet holes all over the place. Like it's like you don't think about the aftermath of something like that until you see it, and it was great. Yeah. Also, I love closing a door on I'm gonna check these fools. He's like, bye.
I mean, look, it is a mandatory part of Netflix Marvel shows that you have at least one hallway fight.
Must have.
Or stair fight. Jessica had a nice stair fight. Daredevil has the most famous hallway and stair fight.
Yes.
So Luke had his own.
Yeah.
What those shows didn't have was a man beating people with a door.
Yeah.
With a door, wrapping them in it like a burrito and chucking them down the stairs. Brilliant.
All those bad guys kept aiming at the door, though.
Yeah.
Foolish.
I know we noticed that one.
Maybe they were trying to like saw through it with bullets. It
It's ineffective.
worked for cartoons. It worked for him.
I wrote down that Luke Cage's superpower radar is just feeling bullets hit him. Like, he was like, "Oh, there's a guy over there because he just shot me."
I got shot in the back. Oh, look at this horde of people running up the stairs.
Yeah, I liked how it was like the same 6 guys at first that he just kept on pushing away, and they just kept coming. It was like, "Fine, well, you're in the ceiling now, so you deal with
it.
that." Yeah.
I'll wipe all of you out with a couch. What?
Yeah.
Amazing.
But I think it was crazy how it was just like, it wasn't just like one person or 2 people. It was like actual hordes of people
Yeah.
just like booking it, hauling ass up the stairs. And I'm like, what are you guys going to do as you're running and shooting towards a door or a couch?
Yeah, that high-powered rifle isn't taking him down. You jumping on his back isn't gonna help.
Oh, yeah. We felt bad for that one guy who's like, I'm going to try to get a piggyback out of this.
I like his gumption though. I'd like to think he's like maybe his one weakness is human flesh.
I'm looking for that Achilles heel. Like, maybe it's his
Yeah.
neck.
These bullets aren't working. Maybe my fists will.
He's looking for a raise. He knows this is how you got to do it.
You got that college effort, okay?
Yeah.
So you got a raise for that.
Maybe he's thinking Luke Cage's skin works like Kevlar. Because Kevlar, you can't shoot, but you could stab.
Yeah, sure.
So he's thinking like maybe like,
Don't give him that much credit. You get out of here. You get out of here.
How great would it have been if Luke Cage like felt him around his neck, and just like picked him up and placed him down, like, patted him on the head,
patted him on the head, and then
Oh,
bashed him
Jesus.
with his fist.
Just be, oh, sweet summer child. Boom.
But I love that the choreography was great. Like it wasn't the intricate choreography that you get with like a Daredevil fight where
No.
he's like a ninja, so you have to have a ninja fight.
Yeah.
This was the whole like Luke's power is that you just can't hurt him.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to do anything fancy. All he has to do, he could have just not even beaten those people and just like walked
straight
through,
through.
taken the bag and walked out as they're like.
I feel like it was more of an annoyance. Like, get off of me.
Yeah.
I have a mission here. I gotta get to the door.
When he took that door off the thing, he just turned himself into a battering ram. Like that was his fight style, was battering ram.
I had like flashes of like First Avenger or Captain America First Avenger
Yeah,
with
with
the
the
door.
shield,
I'm like,
yeah.
was he watching Captain America in the 40s? But no, it was a great just sequence in terms of like it was fun, it was gritty, and it was just like good.
Yeah.
And then he gets into the vault, and he only takes one bag.
He's not greedy.
He's not greedy, but I think it was also very smart, because what that meant is that Cottonmouth and Mariah have no idea that anyone even took money.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
if they knew that some had gone missing, if like half of it was gone, they would have been looking for that half. As they just know that the money's in lockup, and they assume all of it's there.
Yeah. Though I would have liked a scene with him carrying all of the bags out the door and trying to have to juggle them between. That would have been entertaining.
I mean,
for me.
It would have well, like Luke Cage suits. It would have just been like, you know, when you take a lot of groceries in, and you're like, I can do this in one trip.
I think we can assume Cottonmouth knows he took some money, because the cops know he took some money, and we now know Scarf is dirty.
Do the cops know that he took?
They
Yeah,
had the
that
picture on the
video-
wall.
That's
Had
right.
him
That's right.
holding the bag.
Okay.
So yeah.
Oh, Scarf.
Well, I mean, the whole thing, like the reason that he went for the money was because Bobby Fischer is like the only way that you can keep Pops open is to get about 80 grand so that you can keep paying off all the debt that like Pop had.
Yeah.
All the bills and everything to keep that place open. Do you think that once Pops is now up and running, are they a target for Cottonmouth? Like Pops is Switzerland, or it was under Pop.
Yeah.
But with Bobby Fischer running the place, or I mean, even worse, if Luke is running the place, could it be considered?
Yeah, I think Luke has to be as far away from it as possible. As we've seen, Cottonmouth is willing to shoot a surface-to-air missile.
An entire building
In the
complex.
other
Yeah.
direction,
In the wrong
from air
direction.
to surface.
Yeah. So I feel like he's got to stay as far away from that as possible if he wants it to not be blown up.
My guess
Yeah.
is that it's gonna stay closed for a while anyway, and they'll reopen it as like a community center or something in the final episode.
Yeah,
Or
probably.
they'll reopen it as an office
For
where you can
heroes.
go,
Heroes
you
for
can
hire.
hire people. I was gonna be a little more subtle
Yeah.
with it. You guys were.
Guys, do you think Iron Fist is going to show up in this?
I really hope so.
If Danny Rand shows up, number one, I just want them to be buddies already.
I'm ready for
He
it.
won't.
Okay.
It's been said by the showrunner Chio Coker that he will not be in this series.
Okay.
This is about Luke. However, we can do some news and gossip because there is some stuff
Okay.
about like next seasons that we can talk about.
Because I want those buddies. I want to see those buddies hang out.
Especially because they've done such a good job setting this up as a detective series. It'll be
Yeah.
great to see them be buddy cops.
Yeah.
Like,
For
guys.
now, like basically, there's nobody with any buddies right now because there's no trust from anyone.
Yeah.
Because like once Luke stole that money, he did it in like he was so smart about the way he went about it, like hitting up all these places to frame Domingo, who is like super just like I don't even know what the word is for this little guy who comes in dropping Milky Way wrappers on the ground.
Peppery.
Domingo is
That's a good word.
peppery.
Peppery.
Domingo is the worst supervillain in the world if you have OCD. He is dropping half Milky Ways, half
that
fun-sized
guy
Milky
can
Ways.
just that whole scene just bothered the absolute crap out of me. I was like, come on, leave the Milky Ways alone. You're supposed to just eat all of it or not.
Just wasting chocolate.
Stop wasting chocolate and stuff.
Sinful.
Jeez, it's supposed to be Halloween too. Stop it.
Yeah, it's always interesting, and I really love gangster stories and like crime stories because you always get set up with like, oh, this guy's the top, and then you meet his boss, and then you meet that guy's boss. So it's like, you know, the episodes before, we were like, oh, Cottonmouth, he's a bad guy. But then we see this guy come in here and totally disrespect him in front of his guys, and he let it happen, and is assuming that he's at war with him now. And it's interesting to see like that dynamic, and because, you know, like Shades is working for a guy who's even above both of them, and it's like, where does it begin? Where does it end? Why is it Domingo's allowed to just walk in there and drop rappers? I don't know. Like, I feel like he should have gotten beaten up, right? Like, he should have.
Well, Domingo had all of his men behind him, and I think you don't want, when you start a war, you don't want it just to begin and end on your turf. I think you.
That's true.
And it seems like they have. I mean, they came up together, so they seem to have some kind of mutual respect, even though they hate each other. You know, there's like an understanding of how this thing is supposed to play out.
Yeah.
And then it does immediately right after that in the streets as they start kind of going after one another.
Yeah,
That Plover speech was great as well. Yeah.
Yeah, these two were just in a major deal together. Like, it's not like they're enemies per se, at least before this.
Yeah.
But once they get in there, yeah, there's some problems.
Mariah tried to warn
because
him.
like the trust, like Cottonmouth is convinced Domingo is the one doing this because he doesn't know who else would have at this point.
Yeah.
Like, obviously by the end of the episode he knows that it's Luke, but at the time he's just like, it has to be this guy who somehow manages to be intimidating even though he's shorter.
Yeah.
He's got crazy eyes, though. Like, I feel like with Domingo, if you push the wrong button, like, your whole family's dead. Like, he seems like he's gonna be good with a knife. Like, I'm afraid of him. Like, his short stature does nothing to deter me from thinking, like, this guy could go ham. Especially after what we've seen Cottonmouth be able to do with just his fists. If he's got any kind of fear of Domingo. And with all of Mariah's warnings in the previous episodes about how he's crazy and maybe we don't enter deals with him, I think he's got a lot to prove.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, he's got that Napoleon complex going on. And kind of to speak to what you were saying, I like that with these street level stories, you can have these like gray / like multi-level villains. Whereas if it is the big cosmic stuff, it's like, well, that's our bad guy because he's destroying whole cities.
He's got the biggest chair.
Right.
Just look at that purple jaw. Like, clearly he's a bad guy.
Clearly. Hey, don't be a purple jawist.
You show me one guy in the Marvel universe.
There we go.
Taking it out to the check.
One guy who's got a dad, and another guy who's got a purple jaw who's a good guy.
But you're right. I mean, the street level villains, the street level heroes are all walking in
Weird
gray
gray lines, yeah.
which makes them infinitely more interesting. Not that there aren't interesting characters in the more black and white worlds, but like it's so fascinating to watch Luke Cage especially in these episodes where like in episode 4 we get a lot of his backstory. We get his backstory, or, like his origin story, not all of his backstory, but we get his origin, and we can see like he even acknowledges that he has not been a perfect person his whole life. Like, he has done bad things that he feels have warranted even the bad things that happened to him that weren't deserving.
Well, yeah, we got that great conversation before we all hated Scarf, where Scarf and Misty, like, I wrote down, like, oh, these guys are partners, where Scarf's eating the Chinese food, and we got the Vigilante conversation, where...
Vigilante?
I don't think anyone pronounces it that way, by the way.
Yeah, vigilante. I want to be clear that some people understand what you just said.
I was like, what did I miss?
Where, you know, Scarf makes a good point where it's like Luke Cage basically did 10 years of cop work in a day and cleaned up the streets, got dirty money off the streets, got people arrested, like, all in one day. And Misty's saying it, yeah, but he doesn't have any jurisdiction. He doesn't have any training. He doesn't have any right to do it. And it's like, it's the conversation. It's the Civil War conversation. It
did make me curious if we're pre or post Sokovia.
I think we got to be post Sokovia.
Yeah, I think so. Only because nobody mentioned it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It seems like big news.
Yeah, it seems like it would be big news. But yeah, like it's that thing where like Misty was making some good points where it's like they don't have the right to go in, like, because if Luke Cage was wrong and he tears down some innocent person's door, then it's like, well, there goes your door. And like,
and then what happens if, like, because you're missing a door, somebody breaks in and you kill somebody, like, because you ripped off their door and their locks.
But at the same time, like, he saved the police from going to war with Cottonmouth, basically, and taking all of his money away, and instead, like, probably saved a lot of lives doing that on both sides.
But the other side of it is that his decision to do that directly resulted in an RPG getting launched at a building full of innocent people who had zero to do with any of this.
For sure, yeah.
And, like, yes, our people made it out of there, but we don't know who was up in the second, third, fourth, fifth story of that building. Like, those people are dead because Luke Cage took this upon himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a classic, the hero creates the villain kind of situation. But I also feel like, how long has Cottonmouth had this, like, missile launcher that he's just been holding on to, like, just waiting for an excuse to use?
I mean, he was just
he knew he was going
involved.
to use it at one point.
He was just involved in a Hammer Tech deal. So this is probably a Hammer Tech rocket.
I feel like he had it in a special room, and every day he would just unlock it and be like, someday, baby. Someday, I'm going to need you.
Just cleaning it and just like, soon.
Just like
soon.
a single... like,
Beautiful.
He pets it. He's in his chair. It's like Dr. Evil. Oh God. But I mean, like, he's losing his mind because, like, that's like all of his money.
Yeah.
As Mariah put it, like, you don't put all your eggs in one basket, and this is why.
Yeah,
Totally.
Luke Cage broke that basket.
80%. That's so
Destroyed
much
it.
cash.
Yeah.
I mean, so let's talk about Scarf.
Scarf.
Because
I'm
Scarf,
so
like,
mad at myself.
once this goes down, Cottonmouth's first move is to call Scarf because, like, he's got a guy on the inside, which we all were just freaking out about. This is the fun of watching in a group because
all knew.
of us were like, because, like, he starts, like, the sitting under a bridge.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, all right, already this is like
He's there without Misty. Like,
yeah, this is already like somebody's gonna die.
Yeah.
It's just which one of you or both or who's gonna do it.
And then as the scene progresses, he's just encased in shadow, and I'm like, this is not good.
They spent the entire episode making us like Scarf too. like the eating the Chinese food scene was great. Like, we got this really good rapport between the two of them. He's asking Misty about her love life. She's like saying like stop it, but then going on. Like, it made us really like.
He's giving her shit for
sleeping with
him on
Luke
the first
Cage too.
day.
Oh, I know. Well, Jesse's hot button issue with this episode.
What?
Her team allegiance.
Oh yeah. He's given her shit for liking the Celtics and the Pistons while living in New York. That so far is the worst crime we've seen in this show. Not the RPG launcher. It's the worst crime we've seen.
What about the dead bodies? Come on now.
How can you be like the Pistons and the Celtics when you live in New York? How could you? How could you, Misty? I loved you.
She got
Brooklyn
left the
Nets, I'm like,
Knicks.
right there. You can't go over to, like,
You
the
can't
Nets.
let the
I mean,
Nets?
they just
Gross.
moved in. I know the Hulk ran through here,
Yeah.
maybe broke up arenas, but oh yeah, that was something we
Pistons
left
have
out.
soul.
We
It's
were
all about them
reminded of.
Boston. It's all about them Boston Celtics.
The boys
Boston.
from Beantown with the parquet floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you park your car around the corner, I don't
There
care
you
what you
go.
do.
But
Sports.
Sports is happening.
but
We're in the middle
I
of
love
it.
Tauri and Joelle.
just yelling at
Yeah.
if you talk to a Celtics fan,
Figures.
they'll say parquet floor within like the first 5 sentences.
Yep, that's my dad.
Yep. But no, like, it was great just setting up, like, we were like, oh, these two guys are great. They're partners, they like each other. And then Scarf uses something around his neck, not a scarf, but to kill someone. And it was gross, and we're like, I really wanted him to, I really wanted him to live.
And he walks away with the murder weapon around his neck.
Well, and it's just so casual. The
fries.
slipping off of the tie is so just gradual. And then when he like lunges it around the kid's neck, like I've seen like a lot of choking scenes. The whole just angle, and then he's just so dedicated to like throwing that kid over his shoulder and suffocating him with his own hands. And then, as you say, just to tie it right back around, it's not like nothing happened. And eating the fries, like you're not disturbed a little, which says to me this is not the first time you've killed a suspect or an informant or something.
Yeah, no, this guy is clearly among the most corrupt of people. Like, at least Cottonmouth is just like a gangster. This guy pretends to fight for good, and then will just like murder a guy who's coming forward.
Yeah, Chico had a good arc.
Yeah, has decided to do good.
Yeah.
Like
Live up to Pop's name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I like him. I like him so much.
I know.
Like, I want to be his
Scarf?
friend. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't care what he does. No matter what he does, he's always going to be a good guy to me.
Whoa.
And by that, I mean, I think he's going to turn it around, guys. I think he's going to...
What?
I think he's going to turn it around.
No. his whole entrance into the club, to me, says differently. Like, just pulling top shelf liquor off, got your feet on people's seats. No respect for anyone, anywhere. Like, least of all your partner. Like, you're just using her GPS to take down her squeeze. Like, come on, bro.
Yeah, he's out for himself, but that's where his arc starts, guys.
All right, you guys have to let us know, are you Team Scarf or not?
If you are, I don't want to know about it.
I do. Tell me about it. Why? I think Scarf is an interesting character, and I'm definitely glad he's in the show. Like, that turn, I'm mad at myself for not having seen it coming. I'm like, we're doing blaxploitation films. Of course the white cop is dirty. Like, why? But I really did like him at the beginning of this episode. He was so fascinating.
Yeah, I forget who it was that pointed out while we were watching, but the only white character with more than like 5 speaking lines.
Yeah, well, other than Mariah's security guard, it's just been Scarf and that guy are the only white character. It's awesome. Like,
it's great. I mean, it's especially because it's right for this show.
Yeah,
it doesn't feel pointed in any way. That's what this show is. That's that's the characters that inhabit this world.
And that was until episode 4 when we went to the prison.
Oh,
there were a lot of white speaking lines in that. But speaking of Mariah, she had a really great arc in this episode as well. She had, like, because we, in the previous episodes, we were like, we don't know, is she dirty? Is she not? Is she an idealist? And we learned in this episode that she is an idealist. She 100% believes that she's taking this dirty money, but she's turning it into something to help Harlem.
And not just Harlem now, but remembering like where that Harlem came from and making sure that the people that soldiered on and made it what it is remain relevant and known.
Which kind of reminds me of Fisk in a less aggressive way, but Fisk was taking mob money and he was putting it back into Hell's Kitchen to try and rebuild it, although he was doing it aggressively with like land deals and like pushing people out. But it was basically his same idea, was to bring Hell's Kitchen back to what it should be, and that's basically what is happening with Mariah as well.
And what I like about Mariah as a female villain is like women just aren't as physically strong or necessarily as like aggressive as men, and so to see her kind of align herself so that her hands are almost never dirty, but that she gets what she wants. Like even she tells Cottonmouth, like, I don't want to know how you're doing it, just take care of it. I think that's really cool to explore how you can kind of play both sides of that coin and still come out relatively clean.
Yeah, I mean, she says like nothing I do is a hustle.
Yeah,
like she really does see like she keeps like how she's going about this stuff like quiet because she's doing things illegally, but she very much wears her overall intentions on her sleeve. And I stick more to my chaotic good application for this character. Like she doesn't care how it gets done, but she wants to do at least what she perceives as good. And I thought there's one line that I thought was very interesting because she says that
lawful neutral. The lawful neutral is what I'm gonna go. Like what? Yeah, because like according to her moral code, she's doing what she has to do, but sometimes that means it's getting her hands dirty. Like chaotic good would just be like doing good for no reason because you want to.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Would that be lawful evil?
Well, it depends on how bad it gets.
Yeah. All right.
Guys, we'll talk about D&D
Lawful
later.
neutral, guys. All right. Let's split the difference.
Either way. The one line that I thought was very interesting was that she says she's trying to, when they're talking about fortifying,
Yeah.
she says, I want to fortify it against the real invaders. And that was just a huge shot at gentrification, which is like very much happening in Harlem in real life today.
And it's what Wilson Fisk kind of represents, too.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, both like these two are sort of forming like a Fisk-esque empire of their own, like in a very real way. I don't think it's an accident on the part of the creators. I think they looked at what worked with Wilson Fisk, how it would apply to this scenario, and I think the idea to separate them into two people is fascinating because it makes them interesting. It also shifts blame so that like Cottonmouth can go do all his stuff, and she can put anything that goes wrong is on his head.
You can also explore the family dynamics of that. Sending the black guy out and having him do the dirty work while she's trying to make this kind of image, but profiting off of really hurting people. Like they're roughing up like business owners to make sure she gets campaign donations. Like it's not really helping your neighborhood.
It's racketeering.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Literally, the definition.
And I also like the idea of when she says, I'm the face of the money. Like, I'm face on the money. And then Cottonmouth says, you handle black and I'll handle our green. And I think that just perfectly sums up their dichotomies and how they're supposed to be handling it. I think it's going to get really messy really soon. And I'm looking forward to this fallout between the two of them.
Cottonmouth's going to get paranoid for sure. Like, he's going to start turning on everyone.
Well, I think we're going to see Mariah rear her head because now she's got no money and her name is on the line. And she does not like being called Black Mariah. Don't do it. It's a mistake. So I think that now that her name is in jeopardy, we're going to see her do some questionable things.
I really like Mariah as a character because of the fact that even though she seems like a goody two-shoes to a point and that she likes to stick to certain things, I like that they're showing little tiny quips of things that just kind of agitate her. Like in going back to the first episode when she was greeting the kids and everything was so cute and fun and fluffy, and then immediately as soon as she's done touching the kids, her handler gives her a bottle, like a big squirt of hand sanitizer, and she's like, ugh, gross.
Disgusted.
Yeah, and she was like, and it looked like she's like, oh, I've known you since you were little, but like we don't know what that means. We're like, is she a germaphobe? Does she hate children? What does it mean? And then now with this Black Mariah thing, she went freaking crazy, throwing, what was it, like a champagne flute? And that was crazy.
As an actor, that scene must have been tons of fun.
I know.
Just throwing stuff around.
Exactly.
That's my stuff to throw.
I love that. It was such a child thing to do. Like, hey, that's my tantrum. You have no.
I wanted to break that. Then you broke it.
You broke it. Get out.
Also, like, your club built with money she got you.
Yeah.
So sort of her thing to break too.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I wonder if Black Mariah was a childhood name like Cottonmouth.
That makes sense.
Because the reaction was very similar of like, nobody calls me Cottonmouth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, she wasn't going to throw him off a roof.
I don't think she. Well, no, that's not true.
Well, it seems like they're not willing to hurt one another. Like the love there is very believable and real. Like I believe that they, love each other as family and want to support and see one another do. Like even going back to episode 1, she's like, I've always been proud of you. Like I don't even care how you got on your hustle. Like here you are doing it. So good for you. Just don't get caught and don't mess my stuff up.
He almost did though.
Yeah.
In that
he
fight,
sure did.
like he kind of lunged at her and then thought better of it.
And she also checked him real fast.
So fast.
She was like, what are you doing?
Take it down a notch, sir. Don't forget who you're talking to. I like that. They can kind of check and call each other out.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see where their dynamic grows from here. So, because it feels like it's a lot of push and pull, but also a lot of standing together. It's so weird. I love it.
Yeah.
It's also very, what I love about these two characters is that it's very rare on TV that you see a relationship between a male and a female character that isn't romantic. And like, obviously these are two are families, so like that's taken out of the equation, but it's so just all the time. If you were going to create you're going to have two characters, a male and a woman working together, 99% of the time they would be
that are of a similar
having sex.
age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if not, but like, yes, that is distinction.
For sure. And they have just such a unique dynamic you don't get to see, and seeing like how each of them conducts business in a different way, like how like that's just character development. You know who Mariah is just based off of how she conducts business. Like, you don't have to see her backstory. You just know her. And the same with Cottonmouth. Like, you just know him based off of like his actions. It's like really good storytelling.
Yeah. It's really, I mean, look, well, continuing with relationships, Misty and Luke.
Oh boy.
This, I'm not sure where they're headed with their relationship, but they, as soon as they get into that hallway together, the like
with all those bodies,
the mean flirting is just like right back at the top of its game.
Luke steps all in her personal space and is like, "Look here now. I did not commit these crimes, and I'm not fully responsible. You need to find Pop's killer." But then right after, it's like, "But you could come over to my house and we could work some things out." I was like, "Well, damn, Luke."
You could even bring handcuffs this time.
For comic book fans, it's very weird because we know that Misty Knight ends up being the wife and mother of the child of Iron Fist. So it's who is best friends with Luke Cage. So this could end up being a very interesting, weird relationship.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's interesting to be watching this all unfold, and we're wondering how close they're going to try to stick to the 616.
Yeah.
Because with relationships, that's always. Look, relationships go up and down in comics because they just span so many years.
Yeah.
Luke Cage and Jessica Jones in the 616 universe is one of the longest standing relationships.
It also killed the character of Jessica Jones.
Yes. Well,
So-
there's a new series coming out that I'm hoping will
same here,
redeem
but-
her. But
It did.
it will be... It'll be interesting. I mean, like, that was the first... In that relationship was the first time I think I ever, personally read Luke Cage in comics. Because Civil War was my introduction to a lot of the more, like, smaller Marvel characters. So, like, my first time seeing Luke Cage was him and Jessica Jones being in a family together.
Yeah.
Right.
So that was my introduction to the character. And then going back and, like, finding out more. But him and Misty Knight do have this, like... Their relationship almost seems too big to ever be anything more than
they're
like
totally
hooking
thriving
up.
just off sexual energies, which I can appreciate. It's clear that they have this attraction to one another, but I think if they ever slowed down, like trying to build something would not work between these two characters.
No.
Yeah.
But I kind of like this introduction to both of them because I feel like that's kind of both just what they need right now. Like neither one is ready to commit. They're like, she's addicted to her job and he's trying to find himself. Like a relationship is not what either one of them needs, but sex, work some things out, help each other out.
Yeah.
And God only knows that like by 8 episodes from now, he's going to be responsible for her losing an arm or something
Right.
like that. I don't know why I'm picking an arm, but
I don't know.
I mean, and despite all their immense sexual energy, I feel like she's becoming more and more contentious towards him. Like, as these things keep happening around him, I mean, essentially, one, it's making her job harder. And two, like, she's just this giant mystery. And once the mystery's gone, like, who knows how she's going to react, if she's going to feel like he's going to be a force for good or basically something that she has to fight against because she obviously doesn't like vigilantes.
I think she's very confused in just within herself because she says even like there's just something about him, but it's clear that she's still attracted to him and still desires him, and he's never made a false move like in her presence. You know what I mean? He's never been violent or wild. He just kind of happens to just be there all the time. And I think her detective side is like, all like 1 and 1 is 2. Like you're here, so you must be responsible. But she can't really quantify it with herself or with the guy that she knows. And I think she's just having a really difficult time trying to figure out this equation of this mystery man. But I wonder too if, like as you were saying, if that's part of her attraction.
Well, we got to see her do her awesome detective vision thing again, where she's like she steps into the photograph and like sees the crime happening. It was pretty cool. I think it's a really cool like addition to the character.
yeah. I wonder if the what's going on between them is like the reason she's struggling to figure out how she feels about Luke now that she knows more about him. is because like her first impression was just like hot bartender.
Yeah.
And now she's having to slowly, and like when you meet somebody, your first impression always sits with you in one way or another. Now she's constantly having to rewrite what she knows about him. At first it was like, oh, so he also works at Pops, and like maybe he's like involved, but he seems like probably a good dude. Now it's like, wait, he's real involved. Like how involved? Like why is he involved? Like she doesn't know like all the backstory that went into his decision to raid Cottonmouth's place. All she sees is this guy broke up this place vigilante style and took money.
But but at every other place left the money.
Yeah.
And has left most of the money there for them to tag.
And it's now causing buildings to collapse, whether it's him or somebody after him. And if it's somebody after him, what the hell did he do?
Yeah.
Should we get into episode 4?
Yes, we should.
Let's do it.
All right. This episelt was amazing.
I love this episode.
Finish good.
Like I love the containment of the episode.
Yeah, it felt like a bottle episode. It wasn't, but it felt like one.
Yeah. It was in that, like, it was contained, in a sense, to, like, 2 locations.
Yeah.
As opposed to, like, going around to different parts and different parts of Harlem and seeing different characters. It was all about Luke in 2 separate points of his life.
Yeah.
So we catch up, and, like, we're astonished to learn that not only, obviously, like, Luke was going to survive, but, like, that he did manage to save Connie.
Yeah.
Genghis Khan.
You can't bring her down. I'm just really happy, like, because that scene right before it blew up, where like Genghis Khan was like crying and thanking him, that was I said right before it blew up, I was like, guys, I think I love Genghis Khan, and then right when that happened, the missile goes in.
Just not Connie, no.
Yeah, it was eerie because it's like, don't say you love a character.
I know.
And I think this is our first Asian American character who isn't into kung fu or anything. And I think it's pretty cool that Connie is like a landlord and a business owner and just a super awesome person who also seems to want to be there for Luke. Like, once you saw that Luke could protect her, and it's clear, like, Luke doesn't have visitors. Like, he's living upstairs by himself. He works all the time. And I'm glad they're kind of forming this relationship. I'm excited to see where the 2 of them go. And does she tell her husband, or is it just Connie and Luke now? Is it just like, this is the secret between the 2 of them? I kind of want to keep the husband on the outs. I don't know why.
I'm kind of strong. He says.
I'm a little surprised that, like, I don't think that. How would nobody else know that he's super strong? Like, he busted through rubble with a fist that was caught on camera.
Yeah, but adrenaline, man. You know, they're like, he wanted to save his life, that his instincts kicked in,
No
and then
bruising
boom.
or like scarring on the knuckles though?
Nah, adrenaline.
Adrenaline Man, a less popular Marvel character. He's just constantly screaming.
But they're doing that while Misty and Scarf are like piecing together what happened.
Yeah.
They get the video footage to prove it like was not a gas leak. No, look, there's a bright spot going across the camera, and then boom.
And Scarf gets the hard copies.
He sure does.
Yeah.
Well, he doesn't get. He got hard copies, not the hard
not
copies.
the ones, but
they made a copy for him.
Okay.
Got it.
So like he wasn't destroying that evidence.
Okay.
He just wanted ones to take with him.
Okay.
There's too many backups for computer stuff like that anyway.
I would
That's
assume.
true.
But like, so we got to talk about. But that's going on in like today. But we got the flashback to Luke's origin story
at Seagate, which cool. I love the design of the prison and the fact that it's an island prison. I thought they did a really good job constructing that.
Really cool version of his origin story, like very close.
It's very similar
to his comic book origin, but not identical.
Can we talk about the differences?
Yes, exactly. Okay. That's exactly what I want to get into.
Cool. So my favorite difference is that he's not a gangster anymore. The original Luke Cage gets involved in selling drugs, and like he's like emotional, so he's always out in the streets fighting with his best friend, and his best friend turns him in. He sets him up and says he stole some heroin from a I forget which boss.
It was one of the bosses. Might have been Diamondback.
It might have been.
Yeah.
So he goes to jail for a crime he didn't commit, but like this Luke Cage, he had sins on his head. And so he tries to like keep his head down and do his time. But while he's in, he gets offered this opportunity to get experimented on in order to reduce his sentence, which is like egregiously long. So what I like here that not only does he not volunteer to go into this crazy pit, because I think anyone in prison and like in their rational head is like, what kind? No, you're not sticking things in me. I will be dead in the morning. But the fact that he gets kind of not even tricked, but blackmailed is also not the right word. He's forced. His hand is forced when his friend is beat up to join this fighting ring, which is so cool. I really like the boxing
story,
ring.
not the fighting ring. I want to be clear.
The fighting ring is pretty awesome.
But it's like an internet broadcast, like prison, like boxing, bare knuckle boxing.
Right. But the things they did get, like Carl Lucas, it was the Power Man comic books with Carl Lucas. That was his name. Luke Cage didn't come out until way later. And I like that the origin they gave that name Luke Cage in this episode. It was great.
Yeah.
And like the
biblical reference.
And like Rackham, it did like mess with Carl Lucas while he was in prison. Like Rackham was a character. He didn't look so much like a Nazi.
It's the most Nazi-looking prison guard I have ever seen.
One of the most punchable faces, too. Like, you just watch, you're like, that guy deserves a punch in the face.
He looked like an SS member immediately. And he messed with the experiment, which made Luke Cage. Like, that all was there. It was just a great way to show that origin story, and it helped. Like if you're a comic book fan, it hit all the beats you needed it to hit.
Yeah.
And if you're not a comic book fan, it's still a great story that you don't need to know the backstory for. But if you do, it helped you, and it was really pleasing.
Yeah, and I especially like we have all these really great like historical references. We look at these Sambo fights from slave times when you have like these pit your two like biggest blackest slaves against each other and have them fight to the death in the ring. Which if you saw Tarantino's slave movie, then you saw it. So I thought it was cool that just a way to show institutionalized racism without having to have a big speech or really talk about it and just see it in action. I thought that was a really nice touch.
Yeah, and it kind of drove home that slavery didn't end after the Civil War. It just got moved to the prison industrial complex, which we could talk about forever.
He's so ready to.
But just like the little bit that we'll mention is that like they made it clear this is a private prison.
Yeah.
It's not just like, it's a government-run facility and the government's doing experiments or anything. Because in the comic, correct me if I'm wrong, it was another attempt at a super soldier serum of sorts.
So many superheroes made out of and villains out of attempted super soldiers.
Yeah, but like I like that this was not that, because that sort of becomes a trope. Even in the MCU, it's already been sort of a trope.
Yeah.
But it was a doctor like working with this private prison, and like part of this whole fight thing was that they set up like, you get them to beat the living hell out of each other, and then when they're broken and they can't fight, they come into my experimental tube machine and what he calls the bath, and then it's accelerated healing is what he's experimenting
Which makes me wonder if there's like a scientific community behind this, like an organization or something that we haven't said, because it's a privately owned prison, but we never learned who owned it, and it seems to be
maybe they have like a goal or like a mission, like an aim that they're trying to get to.
As you were talking about earlier with boss after boss after boss, it feels like
well, we saw with Jessica Jones, they were tailing this group that they put together. The name escapes me. But there's this group that has been doing experiments. It's what the chemicals that spilled onto Jessica came from. The chemicals that spilled onto Daredevil came from. So there is some nefarious company that has been doing this. I assume the Defenders will tie it all together.
I wonder if Reva is a part of it, because Reva says that I wasn't always a psychologist, just like you weren't always a prisoner. Yeah. And she clearly has some hacking skills, so she was able to delete his files.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if maybe Reva. Oh, that would be so cool.
Also, we get Reva, full Reva this episode.
Yes.
And she's the best.
So lovely.
She's so great.
We got to see them falling for each other, and like this was not. If you'd given me like 18 guesses, like I would not have come up with prison counselor or prisoner. Well, actually, with the Luke Cage origin story, maybe I would have.
Yeah.
Maybe, but still, like it's so and what like a potential cliche that they kind of avoided. Like I feel like we've seen the whole like lonely man in prison, the one woman he interacts with. Of course, he falls in love with her, but it was such a mutual thing. And again, Luke Cage apparently can only flirt by semi-insulting people, which is great.
Big on negging.
Yeah.
No, they're like treating him like a 19th, like Lauren Bacall. Like, it's true. Like, he like walks into a room and everyone looks at him and they're like, who is that guy? And they're like, he comes in like, they're just short of like Luke Cage taking out a cigarette and like a woman lighting it for him. like they treat him, it's kind of like he's insulting the girl, but at the same time like complimenting her. Luke Cage is Lauren Bacall is what I'm saying.
What's up, dollface?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
You know how to whistle, don't you? He could say that. He could say that, and it would seem like it was written for the character.
Oh my god. What did you guys think of the way that they like sort of came to like be like fall for each other through like the prison groups and then like whispering with the guard standing in the corner?
That guard.
I liked it because you could tell, like, when Riva lies about the experiments, you could tell Luke is like, nah, girl, I don't believe a word of what you're saying. You're lying. And I like that they had to kind of call it, like, she's like, you know, you never open up. You could talk, try to help. You know, you can't do this alone. And then, oh my gosh, we can't forget about
Squabbles.
Thank you, Squabbles. I like that Squabbles is part of their love story. Like Squabbles is on the side, like checking his homeboy, like, oh, get it, which I thought was really cute. Is he's like, I've never seen her give her word to anyone, Youngblood. I was like, okay, I see it. It was charming and sweet, and it was believable. It didn't feel like anyone had more power than the other, which I think in prison love stories often it feels a little predatory, and it never got that way here, which I liked.
As soon as you name a character Squabbles, I'm like, well, rest in peace. Because Squabbles is the name you give your talking turtle companion. and like, it's like, oh, well, this guy's gonna die. Like, he's gonna die in a terrible way. I'm glad it was off screen, though.
Me too.
Like, we didn't need this. We saw him get beat up. We saw Luke get beat up a lot. We meet Comanche for the first time, who got name-checked, and we saw him a little bit in the other episodes. And we see Shades. They're both in prison working for this guard, and they're kind of just doing all the dirty work for whatever this underground fighting network is. And we kind of get to see, again, like the mentality of he's an ex-police officer, and he's giving himself isolation. Like, he doesn't want to talk to anyone. He wants to get through. And it's a really good breakdown of, like, he knows he shouldn't be there, so he's not going to interact with anything, and the only person who can get through to him is Riva. And I think that's part of why that romance starts to bloom, because not only that, but he's the only one who can get to Riva as well. He calls her out in the middle of group therapy. He asks,
reads her like a book, too.
Yeah.
Crazy. Oh man, Luke. I thought they really did a great job of exploring depression too, without getting, again, without being preachy or shoving it down your throat, just showing like the natural stages of like isolating yourself. You stop taking care of yourself, like you don't do hygiene, and you see him become kind of like monstrous in the ring. You know, it goes from reluctant to like the only place where he can kind of let go of himself and be a little bit free for a second is when he's landing these incredible blows. Like his knuckles were all bloody. So we learn a lot about Luke. Like, he has struggled with depression. He has, had to try to come out of prison and re-enter to society. But being just a huge black man, there's no place to hide. You're always being visible. And I like that that's how we kind of end episode 2, where he's like, I'm Luke Cage. Just deal with it. Like, that's my name. It's who I am. I'm out. It was wonderful.
He sat down in front of the podium and ate a cheeseburger.
Episode 4.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yes. 2 episodes. Second episode.
And piggybacking off of that, like I really love that moment that he had with Riva, where essentially words. I loved it so much I can't speak. where he's trying to protect her, and she like he really establishes that like she really cares about all the prisoners in here, and he's trying to get her out of there because he knows that she's not safe. And I thought that was like the final moment where you knew that they were going to be a thing, even though you knew they were going to be a thing.
Yeah, and the same thing in the moment of like, save him for me. Like, I don't care if he doesn't, just try for me. I'm here, he's here, like, you can do something maybe, like, just try. And it's clear they're both willing to, like, she's willing to put her job on the line, he was willing to put his life on the line. It's true love.
Can we talk about the tiara and the wrists and the yellow shirt and the chain belt?
We get to see Power Man.
We get to see Power Man. Like, if you were a comic book fan, like, Luke Cage's original costume, I believe, is like considered like one of the weirdest and funniest decisions anyone's ever made. That was it. It was like the little wrist gauntlets, the tiara, the yellow shirt, and a chain belt.
Cut down to his belly button.
And a shirt, a half shirt, and jeans. And they found a way to put it in the show, and it didn't feel weird.
Not even for a second. Not like, we called it when they were cuffing him into the the bath.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh no. And then when they have the headpiece on, and it's so great because he even has to remove part of it when he gets out, and you have this very tight close up where you're like, it's Power Man.
Yeah.
He's here.
Instant they clip the gauntlet onto his wrist.
Oh my God.
We just squeezed.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Because even just for a second, like, Daredevil, of course, has to have his outfit. They gave him the Daredevil outfit. We got a little bit of Jewel and Jessica Jones.
They showed it, and it was like, ha, that's stupid.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. But he wore that tiara for a good like 5 minutes in this episode.
That was weird. Like, I was surprised he kept it on.
I loved it because we get a full action sequence of him as Power Man as he's hammering through, and then we even get in the '92 series when he sheds the classic costume.
Yeah.
There's this cover where he's like ripping it off, and they have a moment inside the comic where they're like, "This is ridiculous. Like, that costume is old and stupid." And he's like, "Yeah, it was stupid." So I like that they found a way to put this moment in where he catches himself in the car mirror and is like, "You look ridiculous. Take the tiara off. Why?"
But he kept the chain belt.
Before we wrap out, I want to talk more about his decision to turn around to the cameras at the end of the episode, because that's a huge move.
That's calling out. Like, I thought for sure he was going to pretend like he was going to lay low and be like, Cottonmouth can't know I'm alive from that. And instead, he's basically blaring it out.
Well, by blaring it out, it's interesting because it offers him sort of a little bit of protection in a way, because the public knows who he is.
Yeah.
It does mean that he can't run anymore.
Yeah.
Because now his face is on TV. For saving someone. Like, that story does not go away. Like, that story gets shared on Facebook, and like a million views of like, this is what good people look like. You know.
Yeah.
Hashtag good people.
Yeah. But do you think him coming out as like the protector of Harlem? Is this the start of that?
I'm not sure if he's
public persona.
I'm not sure if he's 100% ready to take that on. I think this was just him choosing not to run, choosing to stay in Harlem. Now, I'm not sure if he's ready to be its savior yet, but he's certainly ready to protect what's his. And like, after what's happened to Pops, I think he feels he owes it to Pops to at least protect that ground, this one hollowed place where kids could come and feel safe and play their video games instead of being in the street. I think that's what that was. Like, I'm Luke Cage, I'm here now, and you've got something to worry about. Like, Cottonmouth is not going to be able to take a backseat now. He's going to have to deal with his head on. Which, yes. I'm so excited. Like, I want hand-to-hand combat. Let's do it.
I agree. And I guess adding to that, and we talked about it a little bit in the last episode, that he was just trying to live this normal life. And every place that he's called home has been destroyed. And so now he realizes that the only place to move is forward. Yeah. So he has no home, he has no work, he has nothing else. And so he has to kind of take it back to Cottonmouth.
Yeah.
I almost said Cottonmouth. To like reclaim his home.
Moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Forward always.
Always forward. All right, with that, I wanted to look again at the some lyrics from the title songs. So the ones that like for Who's Gonna Take the Weight, which is our first episode. The weight of the world is heavy on my mind, so as my feelings unwind, I find that some try to be down just because it's trendy. Others fall victim to envy. But I'll take the road less traveled so I can see all my hopes and my dreams unravel, relieving your stress, expressing my interest. I feel like I'm doing spoken word at like a poetry reading, and I don't like it.
Snaps.
So I'm sorry.
I love it.
But I do find that those lyrics are really interesting, in line with like what happened in these episodes. Others fall victim to envy, like with all the cash running around. Like it's impressive how much thought they put in, because like it could have been easy to just like pick titles of songs and like throw them on there, but like there's intricate like meaning to this. And like step into the arena. In the arena, or rather Coliseum, there's people gathering by multitudes to see one perpetrator fall to the dust after the other, quickly dispose at the hand of a known brother.
See, and this feels to me like maybe the showrunner is just such a Gangstar fan and has been listening to these albums over and over, like year after year, like just from a true point, and then was like, this forms the story. Like instead of like finding songs to fit a story already written, I strongly feel like he's like, no, this is the story that we want to tell. And what I also like is like, I've read a lot or have, you know, come across a lot of millennial storytellings. I like that this comes from an older male perspective, because Luke Cage is not young. Like he's been through a lot, he's seen a lot, and I feel like to have such like it has that oldie timey feel. Like you get the 70s references, you get like the 90s hip hop references. It works just as a whole piece. I can't tell you guys how much I love this show. Like, I'm so excited to like run into the next showing. It's gonna be so great.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, any final thoughts, guys, as we close out?
No.
Let's just go watch 5 and 6.
Misty Night Forever.
Actually, real quick, just an important note. They were watching Night of the Living Dead in the prison, and that's an important kind of cultural touchstone. It was, I believe, the first major motion picture that starred an African American, and he was the protagonist and like the good guy during the entire thing, which was a big deal at the time. Yeah. He also, they also did a reference in that movie to Jimi Hendrix, which is great. Go watch it; it's a great movie.
Yeah, lots of those little Easter eggs like hidden throughout these episodes. So all right, guys, that does it for our review of episodes 3 and 4 of Luke Cage. Thank you so much for joining us. We're gonna go watch episodes 5 and 6. If you're watching us live, we'll be back in like an hour and a half, 2 hours to talk about episodes 5 and 6. Yay! Just stay tuned. Set your clocks. We'll be back as soon as we can. Until next time, guys, I have been your host, Zach Wilson. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at @ThatZachWilson. Other places to catch me: Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., The After Show, Marvel Movie News as the voice of Doom, and Sci-Fi Weekly with Jesse Klein over there.
And I'm Tauri J. Miller. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at TauriJ. It's TauriJay. Also here on AfterBuzz on the DC slate, The Flash, Arrow, and Supergirl.
Wow, Tauri, yes. I'm Joelle Monique. You can find me all over the internet at Joelle Monique. I'm at Black Girl Nerds every single week. You can catch me here doing Atlanta and Westworld this Sunday.
I'm at Jess Klein 1. That's JESS Kellyanne, the number 1. You see me doing Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Sci-Fi Weekly, and you can see me doing comedy all around the Los Angeles area.
All right, guys, we've been the Luke Cage After Show. Thanks for geeking out with us.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Sweet Christmas!
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.